Hey guys, massive thank you to everyone for the questions in the Q&A on Instagram. I'm literally just going to run through them now and answer them as I go along. There's a good few there, so I might have to break it up into two. First one, creatine. Do we all need it? What exactly does it do? I talked about creatine a little bit in my last Q&A video. Basically, creatine is one of the most probably under and overrated supplements on the market. I love it because I'm what's called a creatine responder. It's basically when you're not getting enough creatine from your diet, particularly if you don't eat a lot of red meat, you're going to respond really, really well to creatine because you're basically putting those 3 amino acids that are formed together to make creatine, you're putting them into your body, and they're going to support more muscle growth because of the way it works. I gave the analogy of a bottle. How creatine works is kind of like when you have a water bottle. When the water bottle is empty, you can crush it and twist it and break it. And then when it's full of water, it's harder to break down and bend. That's basically what creatine does to your muscle. It pulls the water into the muscle, so it makes it harder to press down, which basically translate into being able to lift heavier weight because you're able to put more resistance on it, or being able to use your normal weight for more reps, again, because you can put more resistance. Whether it works for you is very trial or error. Some people respond amazingly well to it. I'm one of those people. I take creatine and I blow up because I don't eat a lot of red meat. So my body responds really, really quickly to it. There's other people that, eat steak once a day and lean beef and another meal. They're probably not going to respond as well. So it really depends whether you take creatine. Also, the form is really important. I've talked about this in my book that's coming out in October. I have a whole section on creatine in the supplement area about the types you take. If you take monohydrate, you need to be taking it correctly. It needs an insulin transporter, so you need to be taking it with a carbohydrate to shuttle it into the cells. And it also needs to be like a non-acidic carbohydrate, so you can't take it with like orange juice or apple juice because the acidity will break up the creatine. Your body won't absorb it all. So that's why you normally have to buy things like glucose or dextrose with your creatine just to get full absorption. So I prefer things like creatine ethyl ester, creatine trimalate. They're basically the esters attached to the creatine, just so your body doesn't need a transporter as such. So you can just take it with water. They taste like shit, but they work amazing. Anything to help me achieve a better mind-muscle connection? Great question. Anyone that has ever seen me train, or any of my trainers, or Paul, my head trainer, one of the most frequent things I get asked is, how are you lifting so light? Which is funny because Paul, his favourite quote is, I don't lift light, I lift right. Which I don't generally say that. Generally, I just lift whatever the weight that I'm trying to lift. I work within the rep range. So I gave an example yesterday on my page. Somebody was asking, do I ever do strength phases? What kind of weight do I use, etc., etc. The reality is I never track my weight. If I'm going for sets of 10 or sets of 8, I just keep adding weight until I can't do more than 8 reps. I never track it. That's personally just for me. I do think progressive overload and tracking your weight is really important, particularly if you're in your first 3 to 5 years of training. Like I'm 12 years training, nearly 13 years in a gym. So I don't need to track my weight, I just work to the rep range. So developing a mind-muscle connection is absolutely crucial for that because it allows you to feel. The mind-muscle, basically, if anyone doesn't know what mind-muscle connection is, it's basically where you feel the muscle you're trying to work. Going too heavy on weight tends to pull away your mind-muscle connection. So I use the example in my bicep video. I did a 1 minute body upgrade video on abs where I talk about bicep curls, where I'll just use the barbell and I very, very, very rarely add weight to a straight barbell because there's 20 kilos and I'm trying to use mind muscle, so that's all through my biceps, and that my front delts or my lower back or whatever it is isn't taking that movement. So generally dropping the weight back and working and feeling the muscle you're trying to feel. Anyone I ever work with, or any of my trainers ever work with, you'll generally see that your weight will scale back if you're working for aesthetics. It's different if you're training for performance and strength, completely different. But for aesthetics, for look, you want to work the muscle you're trying to work. So if you're doing chest, you want to be pressing through and making sure that your chest is taking the full contraction of every move, as opposed to front delts kicking in, triceps kicking in, and all the secondaries. So my tip is to lower the weight and just focus on the squeeze of the muscle you're trying to work to develop that mind-muscle connection. Is there a nutritional difference between frozen veg and fresh veg from the supermarket? I'm very split on this. Personally, I'm a massive fan of organic veg because it doesn't have all the pesticides and other shit that's sprayed onto the veg that gets frozen or the normal veg. And basically, if you think of, I've used the explanation about trans fats before and processed foods. If your body has to deal with all these pesticides and shit that's added to it, it's not going to be in its optimal place to build muscle and lose body fat because your body has to deal with hormones and pesticides that are in your fucking food. That being said, the frozen veg tends to hold things like vitamin C. Like you'll regularly see vitamin C content's higher on frozen veg because it just holds in that frozen condition. And they're really handy. So it really depends. For overall health, I definitely think, going with organic, fresh veg always. It's as it was naturally intended, is the way it was meant to be eaten. That being said, I've used frozen veg for years and it works amazing, particularly in preps and diet. When you're just dieting, fresh food goes off quick. You can just buy a load of frozen veg, chuck it in the freezer, and there's your veg for the week. In terms of nutritionally, you're always going to get it better from fresh. The same as you buy a pack of chicken, in the 98% chicken, or you cook a piece of chicken that you got at your local farm. You're obviously going to get more from the local farm because it's fresh as it was supposed to be. But again, that's purely from a nutritional standpoint, in my opinion. Looking great as on. Okay, thank you. Is cutting calories to below your recommended amount a good way to lose body fat, or doing lots of cardio more effective? Both are amazing. The biggest mistake I see with people that are trying to lose body fat, and I see this with people coming into shows and stuff all the time, is they try and do everything at once. It's effectively where you blow your load all at once, as opposed to like chipping away and tagging away. Probably shouldn't have used that as an expression, but fuck it, the video's been done anyway. The adding in cardio is a great way to get your, obviously your core temperature rose, and your body's going to use, assuming you're in a calorie deficit, your body's going to use fat for fuel, etc., etc. Cardio is very good for that. There's loads of principles, and depending on the cardio you're using, if you're using high intensity cardio, all you're doing is releasing cells, you're actually not burning through any body fat. Then you add in your low intensity cardio with it, and your body uses body fat as the cells have been released. So it really depends the type you're doing, and the timing of it. Again, post-workout, when your body's more depleted of glycogen, you're going to tap into fat stores quicker. That being said, going into a calorie deficit will do the same thing. It's going to make your body use more fat for fuel. The key is using them both. And if you're in a hurry and you need to look good, for a wedding or an event or whatever, use both, because both will work fucking quick. But if you're going into like a contest prep, or, you want to have longevity in it, I wouldn't do both at the same time. I would add in either cardio first or cut your calories. And then as you plateau, then do the other one. Doesn't matter which one you do, they both do the same thing, and they both work amazingly well. Peanut butter cup or dime flavored ice cream? Peanut butter cup, 100%. How do you work out your macro requirements, and how should you be eating for weight training? Is there a specific calculation for doing this? Again, it's very much how long is a piece of string. I generally use things. When I'm designing my nutritional plans, they're really, really detailed. Anyone that's followed my nutritional plans, that it'll take 2 or 3 days before you get it back, because they take me hours, because I do all your calculations. I generally go off of like a BMR to begin with. It normally gives me a good gauge of like resting metabolic rate, how many calories your body needs to stay the same weight, a complete rest. And then I tend to tailor macros around that. That's so individual to each person. That's why the plans take me so long, the customized ones, because they're depending on your job, depending on your training program, depending on if you're cutting or bulking, depending on if you're trying to be for athletic or strength or performance. All of these things have a massive play on your calculation. You're obviously going to have more carbohydrates if you're training for performance or for size. You're going to have a higher protein if you're trying to cut, because your body will burn through more calories processing that as a macronutrient as opposed to carbs. And you get less calories per gram of protein than you will per gram of fat. So it really, really depends on your situation and the context of your goals. I can't give a one size fits all on that. There's one size fits all in terms of if you're trying to lose body fat or trying to, gain muscle. But in terms of to be very, very specific to you, it really depends on the context. Do you agree with IIFYM method, where it takes consideration protein, where basically you can have as much sugar as you want, it doesn't matter as long as it's IIFYM? It really depends on each person. Let me just check time. Yeah, we should be okay. It really depends person to person. I think IIFYM works great within the clean eating protocol. I love IIFYM. to a degree in the off season because it allows a bit of flexibility. Suppose I call it kind of more flexible dieting. Like I don't tend to track things in the off season. I just tend to try and out train when I've eaten poorly. I've done videos about that in the past. But he gives the example of like 100 grams of Glint's Greek yogurt or natural yogurt has 4 grams of sugar, and most people take 500 grams, so that's 20 grams of sugar. Again, it's really about the context, the timings. I have absolutely no problem with somebody taking on 20 grams of sugar post-workout or at insulin-sensitive times. Your body's going to suck it up like a sponge. So if you're taking those sugars on, it's not going to matter. That being said, you take them before bed, you're obviously going to have that little bit of glucose blood sugar spike, which can offset blood sugar before you go to bed, which will wake you in the middle of the night. So if you've ever had a cheat meal high in sugar at night time and you wake up in the middle of the night and you just can't get back to sleep, that's normally because you're all thrown out of whack from your blood sugars from the high sugar meal before bed. So it's really, again, down to the context. I like IIFYM, but structured around your day, structured around your training sessions, structured around insulin sensitive times, and all these extra things. But I like it as an approach. I just think, depending on the context, is what makes it really important and whether it works for you. While cutting, in your opinion, what is the substitute for chocolate and sweet tooth cravings? Oh, I know this only too well. I actually need to do a video on this because I talked to my trainer Paul the last day, and he reminded me because he told his girlfriend and I told him, and it's one of these things that just kind of spread. I have it in a lot of my nutritional plans. Basically what I do for sugar cravings, this has been a fucking lifesaver for me in prep, is I mix up my whey protein. I mix it into a bowl really, really thick with a small amount of water. So it's nearly like yogurt texture. And then I add some blueberries into it, and I add a little bit of Greek yogurt. The beige fat-free Greek yogurt. I mix it all up so it's like the texture of ice cream. I put it in the freezer for 2 minutes, bring it out, mash it all up, a little bit of frozen blueberries in it, mash the whole thing together, and then I eat it like ice cream. That has been my savior. There is no way I would be able to do shows or contest prep or photo shoots or probably even have a six-pack if I didn't have that, because it's the only thing that keeps me sane when I'm on track for whatever it is that the goal is at the time. The key is to find a protein you love. So the Amex Isoprime, the new Amex Isoprime, the mocha coffee is my current favorite. That stuff's amazing. So it really just depends on find the protein you love and then have a play around with like that. So frozen blueberries, some Greek yogurt, and your favorite chocolate protein. Gold. Last one, best rep ranges for legs. Anyone that knows me, this really varies person to person. Again, this is all about context. Like I've found from years, as I said, nearly 13 years training, my legs do not respond to low reps. They do not respond to anything below the 15 or 20 rep range. I have to go high for my legs to respond. They're genetically a very, very weak body part. People always laugh at me when they say it because they're probably one of my strongest body parts now, but genetically they're weak because I used to train them in the 8 to 10 rep range, the same as I did for everything, when I started training first. And they never responded. They never grew. They never changed shape. They never did anything. Until I started incorporating things like DTP, which is like 50 reps and 40 reps and 30 reps and 20 reps. That volume is what makes my legs respond. Again, it works in the complete reverse for my chest. If I go above 8 or 10 reps, my chest doesn't even respond, doesn't even get sore. So it really depends body part to body part and person to person. That being said, I've got friends that will work in the 6 to 8 rep range and their legs explode. So it really is finding what works for you. I remember reading in Arnold Schwarzenegger's book, Modern Encyclopedia, 5-6 years ago, that he never went below 15 on legs, and that's where that principle was born for me. And I haven't gone below 15 reps ever on legs probably since. Sometimes on a deload in a phase, I'll do 8 to 10, knowing that they're not going to grow in that time. But for me, it's been that high range. But again, it's person to person. Try both. Try heavy 6 to 8. Try 15 to 20 and see what works best for you. So I hope this video helps. That's the end of the Q&A. I think I'm about to run out of time, so I hope that helps. Please like and share the page. And if you have any comments, put them down below.